Baldwin, Franklin County Sheriff, and this morning at about 8 o'clock in the morning, our SWAT unit was helping Columbus execute a couple of warrants, probate warrant issued by the court. And in the process conducting that warrant, a resident inside fired shots. I had two deputies that were shot, both transported to Riverside Hospital. The wounds are non-life-threatening, I'm really glad to say. One deputy underwent surgery. He's out of surgery. The other deputy still had some leg wounds. Didn't require surgery, but does require obvious hospitalization. They had multiple gunshot wounds, each of them. That resulted in a very long barricaded situation with the residents. I'd like to really thank Columbus SWAT, Columbus Police for showing up for the officer in trouble call. They came out immediately. There were actually some court employees out here that helped pull deputies to cover during this time. Very hectic, very dangerous situation. Tried negotiating all day. It went up and down, not very well, but our personnel, and along with Columbus and other personnel, were very conscious of what could happen, the danger to the public, danger to others, danger to themselves. And they negotiated, they were patient, and in time, it eventually paid off. We had one subject inside surrendered earlier, about an hour ago, and we took the other subject into custody about, at this time, maybe 30 minutes later.
She was on the roof when this happened, so tell us about that all.
She at the very end of it, she escaped up onto the roof of a second-story house, a steep roof, very dangerous. You know, she could have fallen off. Anything could have happened, and of course we had to go get her, and that alone could have been very dangerous. But they were able to take her into custody up there without injury, and brought her down, and she's been being looked at by a medic now, and we'll be taken into custody.
And how we saw that she was on social media, she was yelling. How did that play into it?
She, I saw bits and parts of it where she was on social media, talking. I didn't watch a whole lot of it. I know our personnel did, and along with our negotiators. And some of that is you're just trying to gain intelligence to, number one, to see if there's danger for anybody in the house, and if there's any information you might be able to use just to communicate, and so just stuff like that.
Talk about just the mindset of obviously going to a situation like this where two officers or two deputies have been shot. You're not quite sure what's going on in the home. This seemed to play out all day. What was kind of the tactic and the motive behind kind of waiting this out and trying to negotiate?
Well, you just said waiting it out. There, at that point, we didn't know how many people were in the house. It turned out that there were two. We didn't know whether we had two suspects or we had a suspect and a hostage. We didn't know. And we know that by rushing in too quick, it can cause unnecessary injury. So we were patient, waited, tried to gather more and more intelligence. And as you probably saw or heard, we tried numerous times of using gas, ordnance, tried everything to get the resident to come out. And she eventually came out on her own up to the roof, but just a lot of patience and trying to slow things down, not rush it.
Is it just the one woman who was firing, or did the other person fire?
That I don't know. I know there were two people in the house. I don't know if one or both fired shots. That I can't answer.
Was the other person female or male?
They were both female. Yes.
Women facing charges?
I would assume, but again, I can't really say. We have to determine, like I said earlier, if they were both suspect, if one was not involved in anything. That will be determined during the investigation, which is being conducted by DCI.
The woman on the roof, did she have a gun in her hand?
No, not that I'm aware of, no. Correct. They're doing well. One deputy is out of surgery, and he took several rounds, one to the leg, one a little bit higher. Ended up with surgery. He's out of surgery, and I understand doing well. The other deputy had several gunshot wounds to the lower legs, and he's also doing well. Did not require surgery, but does require quite a bit of work.
So did this happen at the front door?
That I can't. I believe so by talking to some of the people that were there. I think it was around the front of the place, but I don't know that for sure.
And what was the initial call out for this?
It was a probate warrant. Standard. That's our duty as a sheriff's office. When the court issues a probate warrant, that's one of our duties to go serve. And based on someone's history or the level of violence that our people might encounter, we may send deputies in uniform. We may send SWAT team members, and this required a higher level of response. So our SWAT team members were actually executing that, and that's a standard duty for them.
And why was there a higher level needed for this case?
That would all depend on the resident's history, contact law enforcement, whatever the court comes up with. It's just a system to grade what danger they may present.
Sheriff, can you talk about just how many of these probate warrants you serve and how dangerous they can be?
They, at one time, several years ago, the number of warrants exceeded 1,500 for a year. And it is exhaustive. It's a lot of work. It depends on the danger element on each one, how the kind of response, how many people respond. So a lot. I mean, numerous. I think the numbers have come down a little bit, and we tried efforts into creating other units like CID to help offset the number of probate warrants, but there's a lot.
How dangerous can they be?
Oh, well, extremely. I think we've seen, as a new sheriff, the Columbus SWAT officer, Steve Smith, who's a friend of mine, he was shot and killed over probate. And so they can be very dangerous because you're dealing with people that will have some issues and they're not maybe in the right mind, and anything can happen.
What's the relationship between the two women?
I can't answer. I don't know.
They both live there?
I don't even know that, to be honest.
So you're
I have no
familiar with
idea.
them before? Have you been there before for other probate warrants?
I can't answer. I know there was some intelligence on the address between us and CPD. I don't know if my people have ever been there before. That I have no information on.
How did they get her down from the roof? Can you describe that?
Only from what I saw. And they took her into custody up on the roof, and I'm looking through a tree, so I really couldn't see much. Whatever access she used to get to the roof, I'm assuming they just brought her back down, whether it's a doorway or a window. But
so the officers went into the house?
they went into the house, and they went to the point where she went onto the roof, and then at that point they were able to grab her and bring her back.
There are other people like going on Facebook Live, showing all the scenes in front of the house. How does that impact your negotiation? That she can see what's going on?
Well, if we can use any of that information for our benefit, as far as intelligence, we might be able to pick up on the footage. We'll use that, or even the conversation, what somebody's saying. And our negotiators will try to use any information they can to bring peaceful into the incident.
Whether YouTube, the live, Facebook, that's pretty all helpful for you guys.
Can be, yes, it sure can be.
Do we know why she went up on the roof?
I don't know. I can only assume, but people that are trapped or in a barricade situation, a lot of times will just react differently. So who knows?
Are you concerned there could be something left dangerous in the house? How long will you guys be on this?
The house is being examined now by our bomb team. There were some items in there that look suspect. They tagged them, and they'll take their time. And again, there's no rush, so they may be there for several hours. And I know the scene will be held overnight for the investigation.
Do you have a name?
No, I do not. No, I don't.
That's all.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I get the head by the way. Just for a reference for the story, because I know someone asked.